Are the Green Bay Packers doomed this evening? An unfortunate injury report. Well, all of them unfortunate. Don't want guys to be hurt, playing hurt. It's one that particularly cuts against the Packers, considering the strength of the Miami Dolphins. This has the potential to get ugly, but I'm not convinced that it will. Let's break it down on this Thanksgiving edition of the Scotty Six Pack. Good morning, and thank you for enjoying it with a six-pack. Scotty Six Pack, the only podcast talking all things Wisconsin sports at just 6 days a week. I'm your host, Kedrick Stumbris. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Kedrick Stumbris, and follow the podcast at Scotty Six Pack for the latest updates in Wisconsin sports. You can also find me, Kedrick Stumbris, on Bluesky. You can watch the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube, youtube.com/@Scotty Six Pack. Yes, we are talking Packers. We are talking Dolphins. For our premium subscribers, which you can upgrade your subscription over at Scotty6pack.substack.com for just $5 a month. That is going to be linked in the podcast description. We are going to be continuing our front court feature series of the Wisconsin men's basketball team in the later part of the show, as we have an exclusive one-on-one interview with Badgers forward Nolan Winter. That'll be ready for you all at the very end of the show. Stay tuned or upgrade your subscription, just $5 a month. Listen on Substack or Spotify. But let's talk Packers. Let's talk Dolphins ahead of this Thanksgiving evening matchup between Green Bay and Miami. This should hopefully be exciting. Maybe several of you are headed out to this after your Thanksgiving festivities. And I think the unfortunate part is that what we as Packers fans had feared is true. There's no Jair Alexander in this game. There is no Romeo Doubs. He is still in concussion protocol. I think that's a little unfortunate considering he had a pretty solid game last week. And the Packers kind of just need anybody they can get to find someone that isn't going to drop the football these days. But aside from Jair Alexander, which is a problem because the Packers do not have a great option at number 2 corner, let alone number 3. So we're going to need big plays from, I guess, Keyshawn Nixon, I guess, Carrington Valentine, safeties stepping up, Javon Bullard stepping up in the nickel. Lots and lots of players are going to need to produce at a high level against this Dolphins team. There is a potential for this to really spiral, though, because when the Green Bay Packers released their injury report on Wednesday ahead of Thursday evening's game, it did not just show that Edgerrin Cooper was going to be out again, but also listed Isaiah McDuffie as questionable. That's a problem for a team that is pretty thin at off-ball linebacker. And if Isaiah McDuffie can't go, this spirals pretty quickly for the Packers. Quay Walker, who had a good game, probably the best game of his career against the San Francisco 49ers, always plays every snap. He played 43 snaps against the 49ers. Isaiah McDuffie played 41, only 2 fewer snaps than Quay Walker. Isaiah McDuffie, with Edge Cooper out of the lineup, is taking the lion's share of snaps on defense. After that, if there's no Isaiah McDuffie in this game, you're going deep into Eric Wilson territory. You're getting maybe increased snaps in reserve from Teron Hopper when he's not just being a special teams guy. It's not going to be a fun day because if all these guys are out, particularly, look, Quay, for all the heat that Quay gets, this is a game where if he plays with his head on straight, if he plays well, it's a game where his strengths are important, whether or not he can tap into them well or not, are important to match up with the speed, the versatility, the electricity that the Miami Dolphins skill players bring to the field. Dolphins are fast, man. And I know that this is a talking point that's just been beaten to death over the last couple of seasons, but it's true. It's true. Tyreek Hill on the outside, Jalen Waddle on the other boundary receiver position. That's two of the fastest players in football. Not to mention you have speedsters at running back and Devin Achane and Raheem Mostert. Woo! And that's where you need guys like Jair Alexander. Because if it's you're not at that point, you're not just leaving Jalen Waddle covered by a number 2 corner that probably can't keep up with him. You're leaving Tyreek Hill out there to do damage. You're leaving Jalen Waddle to do damage. And then in the middle of the field, if it's just Quay and you don't have Edge Cooper, the speedster who you probably really want out there to try to keep up with these speeding linebackers. And it's not that Isaiah McDuffie is an athletic freak by any means, but he knows what he should be doing and is serviceable. We're getting deep into Eric Wilson snaps tonight. It could be rough. It could be rough. And I am not a Teron Hopper guy. Never. I haven't been. And we'll see. Maybe he can still prove me wrong. But that's not good. Not good at all for the Packers if Edge Cooper is out and Isaiah McDuffie can't make it. This is potentially a not fun evening for Green Bay. Can the weather make the difference, though? It's going to be a cold day at Lambeau Field today. I forgot to Google search the kickoff temperature tonight, so we're going to do that. But it's going to be cold, and Tua does not play well in the cold. I'm looking real feel at Lambeau right now is 22 degrees right now, around 10 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning. Wind chill index of 18 around kickoff. Woo! In his career, thanks to sorry, I lost my train of thought entirely. Thanks to the research done by Freddie Boston over at LombardiAv.com, we know that Tua has not put together overwhelming stats in games below 40 degrees. Since 2020, in games below 40 degrees, Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, has thrown 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in those games. Combine that together with the skill talent that he's going to be throwing to, that he's going to be handing the ball off to. Cold grass, like there is at Lambeau, does make it harder to run quickly than an indoor turf surface or an otherwise heated field. It's a hard playing surface that makes it difficult to go. Absolutely. It's where I get curious, wondering if the run game, despite the fact that we have 2 very highly paid quarterbacks that just got very highly paid in this offseason out there who can sling the ball and are very important to their offenses. Makes me wonder how big of a factor the run game is going to be in this, because they are big for both of these teams. And it makes me wonder just how fun the run game could be to watch in this one. With all the pre-snap motion stuff that both of these teams like to do, and even after the snap, the full pirouettes that Jordan Love does on the trick handoffs, that kind of stuff. These are 2 play callers that I think could really, really get some fun run game stuff going today. If the cold weather is just not going to cooperate with the ball hitting guys' hands really hard, with Jordan Love, who wants to throw the ball at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it's going to hit his receivers with rocks for hands and just bounce off. It could be a really big day for the run game, which could be fun to watch. A Josh Jacobs who is a bruiser in the backfield. But is it just the run game? Is it the pass game? And despite all of this consternation about the injury report and how good Tua is, and lots of conversation this week in the greater Packers takeoverse about just how great the Dolphins have been since they've gotten Tua back. I think that's right, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Dolphins falter down the stretch regardless. Whether or not that starts today is an open question, of course. But there is something really interesting about the way numbers break down for the Dolphins and for the Packers, and whether or not you adjust them for opponent, and whether or not you adjust them for games that Tua was or wasn't in. Since week 8, these are the last 5 games that the Dolphins have played, and the last 5 games, and the 5 games that Tua has played in since returning from injury, since returning from concussion protocol. That the first one of which is included in here, is the Dolphins' loss to the Arizona Cardinals, a close loss, in which Tua played well against Arizona. Since week 8, the Dolphins rank 13th in EPA per play on defense, and expected points added per play on defense. The Packers are 14th in that metric. Very close, obviously. Neither defense, by that metric, is defending the pass particularly well, down by success rate, rather, than just EPA per play. And the Packers have some really weird rushing defense splits where they look really bad by EPA per play, but they're top 10 by success rate. I kind of wonder if that's them getting run on in the red zone, and teams punching in a couple of red zone touchdowns on them, which are boosting teams rushing EPA per play as opposed to success rate. So something to watch for. Offensively, since week 8, the Dolphins are 5th in EPA per play, and the Packers are 8th. Also very close. Also, Packers just a little bit behind. By success rate again, which I like. I like using after you get rid of the whole unit. I like using success rate a little bit more, comparing passing to running, because it takes out some of the red zone stuff there, and being able to actually compare teams down to down, just whether teams are throwing or running the ball feels a little more useful to me. The Dolphins are tearing it up through the air by success rate. The Packers are punishing on the ground by success rate. All right. In a game where the cold weather could make running the ball really effective, that could be good for Green Bay. But in a game where the injury report really favors the Dolphins because the Packers do not have speed on the field, that high-level passing attack could really favor the Dolphins if Tua can overcome the weather. We have a push-pull here between the weather and the injury report that I don't know if I'm playing it up too much in my head, and I probably am, just little fan brain stuff. These two teams I think are similarly talented, and while the Packers are probably down too much on the injury report to win this one, I'm trying to find ways that these two teams can compete with one another. This is something, this 100% feels like a thing I gravitate to. Another thing, though, beyond the injury report versus weather dynamic in this game, is, yes, with Tua in the lineup, the Dolphins should be better. But their opponent-adjusted statistics over the course of the season make the Dolphins really not look good. Really not look good. All season long. In season-long DVOA, the Packers are 6th in the league. It's a really, really good team, especially considering that this team played so many games with Malik Willis. The Dolphins, by DVOA, season long, for the whole team, of course, are 22nd. Okay. Of course, that accounts for both offense and defense. But like we mentioned, since week 8, these are two defenses that have been pretty much even, right? The thing I find most interesting about why not most interesting. I always think interesting is a lazy word in sports radio. Um, because of course something's interesting. Otherwise, why are you talking about it? Tell me why it's interesting, right? Give me a different adjective. Um, why I find the season-long numbers profound is because the games in which Tua did not play were against some of the worst competition on the Dolphins' schedule. So, did Tua really elevate this Miami team so much that by DVOA without him, they are one of the worst teams in the league? Even by DVOA without him for a handful of games? Because that didn't happen for the Packers. And the Packers played some of these similar teams as well. Packers played the Colts without without Jordan Love. So did the Dolphins. Packers played the Titans without Jordan Love. So did the Dolphins. The Dolphins without Tua. Of course, the Dolphins played the Titans and Colts without Jordan Love. But the Dolphins had a 3-touchdown loss to the Seahawks, which looked destined to be 9-8. They took a 19-point loss to the Titans, which were 28th in DVOA. They only beat the Patriots by 5, which are dead last in DVOA. And so maybe this is less about how good are the Dolphins with versus without Tua. Maybe this is more about hot dang, Ryan Gutekunst pulled off the move of the century by trading for Malik Willis, right? Especially if this turns into a Super Bowl for the Green Bay Packers. But I find the season-long numbers just they give me doubt for what this Miami team is. And maybe too much doubt. Maybe it really is. They just don't have a backup quarterback. This isn't a league in which you can rely on a backup quarterback for multiple games. The best thing you can hope for in 99% of cases is that you have a backup quarterback who can steal you a game. The Packers got lucky, and they had a backup quarterback who outright won them multiple games. That's not something that happens in the league. And ultimately, maybe this is a game that just comes down to the run. And the Dolphins finding ways to get the ball into the hands of their skill players without having to throw it down the field. And maybe the Packers just have to hope Lambeau comes to play today and slows the game down. And that's something that should ultimately benefit the Green Bay Packers. Maybe that's what it comes down to. That's going to do it for today's Packers segment of the Scotty Six Pack podcast. If you are a premium subscriber to the pod, stick around. Or if you want to upgrade your subscription, click on the link in the podcast description. That is scottysixpack.substack.com. For just $5 a month, you too can join and get the entire backlog of our exclusive interviews, including this, the second of our front court feature series on the Wisconsin Badgers men's basketball team that is coming up at the end of this show. A one-on-one interview I got to do this week with Nolan Winter. Go ahead and find that. We also have a whole bunch of interviews over up for free at scottysixpack.substack.com with the Wisconsin Badgers football team players who spoke to the media this week ahead of a very big game against the Minnesota Golden Gophers that will be played on Black Friday morning, a sleepy Black Friday morning. So if you are a premium subscriber, stick around. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening to the Scotty Six Pack podcast. Have a very happy Thanksgiving. While you are here, subscribe, leave a nice comment, kind words, 5 stars, hit that like button. You can also watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/@ScottySixPack, on top of wherever you listen to podcasts. Until we talk to you all again very soon, go Pack Go.